took away from the waiting room to make that because the waiting room was like the size of a closet. I don't remember that guy's name. He was supposed to be pretty good. I mean, problem with neither one of my kids would do the aftercare stuff, the retainer and all that stuff you're supposed to do. He just gave up. I've got somebody named Geometria. Who is Geometria?
That's my oldest daughter.
That's your what?
My oldest daughter.
Is that the one you just told me about, or is that a different one?
That's the one I was telling you about. It's my oldest daughter.
And she's in her 20s.
Yes.
Okay. Well, has she got two devices, or is?
I don't know because I'm not in the same room with her.
Okay, I'm going to delete this other one. Time's enough. Ms. Miller, have you been here before?
I have been to Henry County Juvenile Court, but it's been a long minute, Your Honor. It's been quite some time. Matter of fact, as far as juvenile court, it's probably been a couple of years.
Well, your voice sounds familiar, and well, if it's been well, we've always had two judges, but I've been here almost 38 years. So if you've been here anytime, probably in your lifetime, 50-50 chance of seeing me. I'm glad I went to run my errand. That was why I was a couple minutes late, and because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to do it afterwards, and it looks like that's the case. Miss Scott? Where did Miss Scott go? Well, I guess when the child took the device, then that's how I was seeing and talking to Miss Scott. But I hope she didn't do what I told her not to do, which was not go in the room with them. There used to be an Indian restaurant that had a buffet as you started up the hill on Cumberland, probably past where the Battery is now. But I've never been up there since they built all that. So, but it was on the right-hand side going up that hill, and it didn't look like anything special. But it had. I'm not a Indian food connoisseur, but I really like that. I went out of my way to go there a couple of times.
That's true. I believe it's still there, and I believe there's also a Asian or Chinese buffet place right near there that's very good as well.
Good. Do you practice in Superior Court?
Well, I do. I've been in practice a little over 30 years, and I do exclusively family law and juvenile law. So yeah, I do a good bit in Superior Court as far as general family law.
Y'all got a bit of a mess in your Superior Court. Are they still under that emergency order?
Oh, yes, Your Honor, it is awful.
Yeah.
It is. When you say it's a bit of a mess, that's an understatement. And I'll tell you, all of us in the legal community are trying to get the word out as far as, how people need to vote for the Superior Court clerk in November, because unfortunately, people outside the legal communty, they're not familiar with it. And I don't even understand why Superior Court clerk is a partisan position to begin with. I don't see the point of it.
Well, all you have to do is spend a couple of days watching the Georgia legislature. Why?
Yes.
I mean, the probate judges over the years have been nonpartisan, then partisan, then non. I don't know what they are now, but it's just the winds of the politics. Like there've been apparently a pretty big demographic shift in Cobb County, where just like the county where I am right now. When I moved here, if you didn't have an R by your name, you could forget it. Now it's almost the reverse. If you don't have a D by your name, you're.
Yep.
So.
Judge, I'm back. I would just ask that the child be placed outside the courtroom from the aunt and be placed in a different room, because I just don't know what everybody's going to talk about.
Is she okay with that? And
I told her I was going to ask for that.
Gabrielle, is that okay with you? I don't know where you are, but I assume you're. Gabrielle?
Miss Scott, you got to turn off your mute.
Gabrielle?
Yes.
Ms. Miller talked to you about she'd rather you not be in the hearing, that that things may come up that might need to be digested by an adult to explain to you rather than you hearing it full force. So where is your comfort zone in the house there where you stay right now? Do you have a room? Do you have a TV or a computer or something?
My room.
Okay. And you're not where you can hear from your room into where Miss Scott is?
No, my room upstairs.
Okay, so it's upstairs?
Upstairs.
Okay. What I'm going to do is ask you to go to that room and close your door and read a good book, or watch an educational television show, or do some research on the internet. Okay? And Miss Scott will come get you when we need you, okay?
Okay.
we're not going to be that terribly long. This is an emergency hearing and we're not going to be here all day. I promise you.
This boy says, turn on your music.
Miss Miller will be available. Is she already gone? Miss Scott?
She's going upstairs now.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I was going to tell her Miss Miller would be available, that she could ask questions of and talk to her as her lawyer.
Close your room door.
Who is, I can't read. Cha Pace? Who is Cha Pace? Anybody know who that is?
That's Kimberly's sister.
Miss Pace? Are you paying attention?
Kimberly,
Yes, I am.
okay,
Well, I asked you 3 times, who is Kim? I asked anybody on the call, who is,
I do apologize. I had to unmute my device.
okay. Kimberly, can you put we really can't see your face clearly. We see the ceiling and the fan. There you go.
stay like that. Don't be, it looks like you're laying down or leaning way back in a chair where we can hardly see you.
Yeah.
And if you've got overhead lights, turn them on, because it looks like you've got an accent light over the back of your head and nothing else.
Okay, hold on.
Well, I don't, wherever Cha Pace went is not here anymore. Did you let her in? Well, I don't know what I didn't let her in because I wanted you to tell me who she was, or somebody to tell me who she was.
That's Kimberly's sister.
Okay, well, she just departed. I guess I don't know. She wasn't there very long because I just had noticed her in the waiting room. That she's 30 minutes late. All right, do we have everybody now except the child who's been sequestered
Yes.
at her lawyer's request? Now tell me, I've got an iPhone 2. I thought I just put that person out because they wouldn't turn on their camera or turn on their mic. And my computer said they couldn't get back in once I put them out. So you're still not answering, iPhone 2? Bye-bye. I hear noises and people talking in the background of somebody's phone. Where was that coming from? You're not in trouble. I just, when I don't need you to be talking to me, just mute your phone if you've got somebody in the background that's talking, which is what I heard, but I don't know what they were talking about. On a private dependency case initiated by Quantica Scott, her paternal aunt. Upon review of the pleadings, the court scheduled an emergency hearing. Had some concerns about the legal custodian living in another state and whether there are any interstate compact issues arising, whether this court has venue or jurisdiction. Those are things that you people that aren't lawyers don't need to have known about that stuff, other than this court only has jurisdiction over dependency cases when the child is either found to be dependent in this county or the parent alleging to be the depending offender lives in this county. And I don't know if we have either one of those until I hear some evidence. But as I told the young lady, we're not here for a trial. That could take longer than we're going to be taking today. I need to hear evidence that addresses those issues while the child was in this county. Apparently she was here at the time this was filed. And a summary of the allegations of why the child is not safe and secure in the custody of their parent, which is Ms. Pace. So we're conducting this hearing virtually using Zoom because the pleadings reflected that the custodial parent lived out of state. And I'm not guaranteeing that future hearings, if we have future hearings, will be live or virtual, but we'll play it by ear as we go along. So on Zoom, we have the petitioner, Quantica Scott, who's not represented by counsel, correct, Ms. Scott?
Yes.
All right. We have the mother, Kimberly Pace, who's represented by Jody Miller, attorney from Marietta. The father, unfortunately, passed away, according to my file, and the appointed attorney and guardian ad litem, Ms. Miller, is present. The initial paperwork that was filed with the court or accompanied the court pleadings indicated that there had been contact with Henry County DFACS, and in particular, Ms. Fincher, who is on the Zoom part of this hearing. And so they were invited to appear, and they're here. Ms. Fincher's here, her supervisor. She's going to shoot me. Ms. Howard. And I couldn't hear you. I knew it was an H. And Ms. Robinson, with a case manager that is there, and the department's lawyer, Mr. Overman, is here. We're not going over life histories of anybody in this case today. I've told you what the important issues that I need to resolve, at least as best I can, to determine whether this case goes any further than today, or whether, because if I don't find venue or jurisdiction or compliance with UCCJA, then the case is over. JEA, I think. We're actually doing this on Zoom, but we're doing it as a hybrid Zoom, which means the DFACS personnel, except Ms. Fincher and the court and the clerk, are all here live in the courtroom in McDonough in the Judicial Center, and the rest of the parties are actually the parties and witnesses are on Zoom. So, and did I introduce you, Ms. Miller, as the attorney and guardian ad litem?
You did, Judge.
Good. And you had a chance to confer with your client before we started. Nobody else asked for any time to speak in breakout sessions, so we're ready to proceed. I'm not necessarily going to hear from, if you've got other people in the back of your house or apartment that you want me to hear from, they can't be in this hearing, or I'm not going to hear from them. But if you want me to consider hearing from them, they have to be out of the courtroom, and they have to be under oath and under the rules. So I've explained to them what happens if they don't comply with that and stay away from the hearing. You got any witnesses that you want me to hear from? Ms. Miller, on behalf of Ms. Pace?
No, Your Honor, just the mother.
Okay.
No other witnesses.
Ms. Scott, did you have anybody else that you wanted me to hear from today other than you and possibly the child?
Right now, no, sir.
Okay. And Ms. Fincher, I'm going to swear you in. Your name was very prominently in some of my paperwork, so I figured you knew a lot. So if you, Ms. Robinson, you want to be sworn in too? Okay. Ms. Robinson's going to raise her right hand, and then everybody else that identified, Mom, Ms. Scott. If I talk to the child later, we'll see about swearing her in, but she's sequestered right now. Do each of you ladies solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony and evidence you're giving this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Do each of you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Scott. I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Scott, I know you're not a lawyer, but you have the burden of establishing probable cause to believe this child is dependent, and that the child would be at risk of harm if she were allowed to remain with her legal custodian until this case can come back for trial, which, depending on how I rule today, could be 2 weeks away. It could be a month or so away. So tell me why this child can't go back to her mother.
Her mom house is a deplorable condition. I send over photos that I have had. I have had this child, taking care of this child in my custody since her fifth grade graduation.
Tell me what age that is, because that doesn't help me.
She's 12 now, so I had her since 9-ish, 10, living in my house
Here in Henry County.
No, I just moved back to Georgia. I graduated from high school and college in Georgia. I lived in Georgia for over 20 years with my parents.
Okay.
In Dublin, Georgia. We moved to McIntyre first, Georgia, and Wilkinson County, and then we moved to Dublin, Georgia.
Okay. So when the child came to live with you, where were you living?
I was living in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. And when did you leave Fort Lauderdale?
I left Fort Lauderdale in April.
Okay. When was the first time that Miss Pace told you she wanted her child back?
She told me well, before I left Florida, I let her know that I was getting ready to leave because the child was living with me at the time. So I was letting her know, hey, I'm moving to Georgia. She said, I said, we can do school here and summer there, or the opposite. She said, well, if she does, I said, well, she don't want to live with you. She said, well, if she don't want to live with me, she could go live with your mom, but she can't do school with you. I want her with her siblings. So I said, okay, no problem. So we came here for the summer. Gabriella, she was going through a tantrum when it was time to get in the car to leave. I prior to that, I spoke with her about leaving. She ended up sending her mom a text that I didn't agree on. And me and her mom talked, me and her aunt talked, and her mom was like, well, we'll figure out counseling or anything like that. I said, well, my biggest fear is that she'll come there and she will run away. And I don't want that. And she said, well, if she started acting crazy, I'll get her Baker Act.
If she starts acting crazy, she'll do what?
Get her Baker Act.
I don't know what that is or what you're saying.
So that's a little saying they say in Florida. Basically, she'll call them to get her to go to a facility for like 72 hours where they give her medicine and everything like that.
And it's called a Baker's Rack?
Baker Act.
Baker Act. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. I think I have heard of that, but I didn't understand that was what you were saying. So your testimony is that in April, y'all discussed and you couldn't agree on how to split time, but you brought her to Georgia, to your new residence in Henry County.
She said she could come to Georgia, yes.
Okay. Okay, so from April, now when did she come up trying to retrieve her child and the police got involved?
She came the weekend before Labor Day.
Okay. So about 4 months after she came up here with you, she tried to retrieve the child and law enforcement put a quash on that.
Right. But prior to that, we text. She had agreed because I had did the petition when she decided that she didn't want to get in the car. I went to the police department to see because I didn't want to get myself in any trouble. And they said, well, I have to go to probate court to file a petition just for temporary custody, until we could get this sorted out. I said, okay. So I went to probate court, and then in the midst of me going to probate court, she came up here and she tried to get her out of school after I enrolled her in school. She tried to get out of school like a week ago, and they wouldn't allow her. During the text message, she agreed that she'll go ahead and sign the papers to give me temporary custody when she was taking her daughter back to Nebraska for college. She said, I'll go ahead and sign the papers. Once I sent her the paper, I was at probate court when I sent her the paper through email. She said, okay. I went to Miami the following week to pick up the paper because they say it has to be the original paper that she has to sign. And she told me she's not signing my papers. She want me to sign her papers with her conditions of having temporary custody for Gabriella. And I told her, well, Henry County told me that this is the paper I need. And from there, she stopped communicating with me far as temporary custody.
When was that?
That was the week of, tell you the exact week.
What's the status of your temporary guardianship petition in Henry Probate Court now?
I'm not sure. When the last time we spoke, they was subpoenaing her.
Okay.
So
But something in your paperwork led me to think that there was something going on in probate court, and I called the clerk, and it was pending, but they said that you had reported that you had not gotten an acknowledgement and consent from the mother. So I don't think they were planning to do anything else without that consent. But you need to talk with them, but I don't think you've got, if it's still pending, I don't think they're planning to proceed, but I'm not speaking for them. That's just what their clerk led me to believe. But because if it had been active or if they had granted it or were having a hearing scheduled, I would not have scheduled this today. I would have let y'all finish it in probate court.
That was August 23rd, Judge, when me and her spoke about she wanted me to sign her terms for temporary custody.
Well, I'm not clear on what was the difference, except that you wanted the school year and you wanted her to have the summer, and she wanted the school year and she wanted you to have the summer. Is that right?
Correct. But Gabriella never went to school from her home. She's been living with me in my home. I went from having a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom in Fort Lauderdale because I had my nephew, which is Gabriel, and I had Gabriella, and I was transporting them every day to Bear Middle School where they was going to school.
Okay. Okay. So why can't mom take care of all that? And you can just be the aunt who dotes on them and spoils them.
Well, the mom never home. She have other people who live in her home besides her children. The mom doesn't provide anything for them. I provide everything for them, or food, clothing, anything that's needed. I take them to the doctor. The mom actually never always traveling. She's never ever at home. The house is
You've
a
been
wreck.
up there since when? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you've been in Georgia since April?
Yes.
Okay, so you went down to get her to sign papers, which she wouldn't sign. How many other times have you been down where you could have seen her house and what kind of shape it was in?
I have been back in for the last. I've probably been back to Florida maybe 3 or 4 times since I moved here.
Okay. Well, tell me about is the boy Gabriel, is he a twin to Gabrielle?
No, they just 1 year apart.
Okay. And the boy lives with you too?
No, he don't live with me anymore. He's back with his mom. When I left to move to Georgia, he went back with his mom. I provided the bed and everything for him to have a clean living over there.
Okay. And how old is he? He's 1 year older or younger?
He's 13.
Okay. All right. And he went back in April?
He went back in August.
August. Okay. So he's been back a month. As far as you know, they don't call it Family and Children Services in Florida. I can't remember what they call their child welfare agency, but have they called and said they're having to take that child away from Miss Pace?
No, they haven't called, but he has called me and told me he haven't been living with his mom. He's living with his friend because his school is in Miami and she lives in Sunrise, Florida, which is out the district.
All right. Well, what would be wrong with him going to school in Sunrise where she lives?
She ended up taking them out of Bear Middle School because it was an incident at her house. And it was when my niece woke up and said she woke up with no clothes on. And she don't remember, she never took off her clothes. And I ended up taking her to the hospital. So it was a big issue. So she took them from Bear Middle School and put them in New Orleans Middle. So it would be like hard for me to get them back and forth to school. So now he's still continuing there. And Gabriella ended up going back to Bear Middle School because she told the school police that she doesn't live in that district. That's why she be late every day for school and she don't have uniform for school.
Okay, so the niece you were referring to is Gabrielle, the child we're here about.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So she's lived with you for a couple of years, but she's only lived in Henry County since August.
Since April.
Okay.
The end of April.
End of
Yes.
April.
Mhm.
Okay. And at no time has there ever been any legal custody order from a court in Florida or a court in Georgia?
No, sir.
And the daughter at least has lived, the one that's subject to this case, Gabrielle, has lived with you, you said, for 2 years.
Correct.
Okay. And she's 12 now, just turned 12 in June. Looks
Yes,
like.
sir.
Okay.
Kimberly has this thing that she'll call and try to take her back when she feel like it. She'll say, "Oh, I birthed them for 9 months. So I'll let them go. Then once I let them go, she'll call me and say, I can't handle her." Or she'll call and say, "You need to speak to your nephew. He's being disrespectful to me. You need to come get them. I can't take it." So she have this thing where she knows she has more of authority of them. She'll give them when she can't, and then she'll try to take them back. Give them, take them back. That's what she does. So Gabriella and her has a vinegar and water relationship now, and it's been ongoing for the last 2 years. Well, a year and a half.
What kind of relationship? I missed that word you used.
Vinegar and
Vinegar. Okay.
Yeah. Vinegar and water is not mixing. She has verbally. I have videos of her verbally abusing her. I have pictures of the home. I see this morning they put new pictures in that she cleaned up the home, but I have the same picture. I have a new picture that's actually on her social media as of today. And then I have another one that she has with a gun, pills, and everything on the dresser.
With what?
A gun and pills all over the dresser that she posted 2 days ago.
Did you report all this to the welfare people in Florida?
I have reported it before.
Did they do anything?
They said it's an open investigation.
And when's the last time they told you there was an open investigation?
That was maybe what it was. That was the time when my niece woke up with no clothes on.
I'm sorry, I don't know when that was.
Maybe a couple of months ago. I don't know the exact amount of months.
She's been at your house.
This is when she goes to visit. She went to visit. She goes, I'll allow her, she goes to visit her mom.
Okay. Well, that tells me that the conditions must not be that bothersome to you if you even agreed to let the child spend the whole summer with her mother.
No, she never had the summer with her. She went to visit.
You were agreeing, you told me earlier, you were agreeing for the child. What you wanted to have resolved was the child lived with you during school and lived with mom during the summer.
Yeah, that
So
was the
I didn't-
agreement from the beginning, but
Yeah,
she didn't
but-
want it.
but
But Gabby
what I'm-
don't want to go at all.
Okay, well, she's not of an age where she gets to pick where she lives. Okay,
Correct.
so I don't know what the law is in Florida, but that's not the law in Georgia.
Okay.
Not between a parent and a third party. Uh, I, I'm glad for kids to tell me what they want and why they want it, but that doesn't mean that is not dispositive of the case. Did you say you didn't have any questions, Ms. Miller? I'm not sure if you got a chance to answer because she and I started talking again.
Which Ms. Miller?
I'm
We have
sorry.
two Miss Millers.
Oh, well, there's one below my line of vision and one above my line of vision on the screen. We'll let Miss Ann Miller go first, alphabetically.
Judge, I don't have any questions.
I knew that would be that. Okay, Ms. Miller, that doesn't mean you get twice as long.
No, I understand, Your Honor. Is it not true, Ms. Scott, that you actually relocated to Georgia in July and not April?
No, I relocated in April.
Okay. And Gabrielle was in school in Florida until the end of the last school year, correct?
Yeah, but we was traveling here on the weekends. We was traveling.
So Gabrielle was in school in Florida until the end of last school year in May.
Right, but she was
Okay.
traveling back and forth with me to Georgia in April.
That may be the case, but that was not my question. And you
Yes.
answered my question.
Yes,
She
ma'am.
was in school and living with her mother.
No, she
majority
wasn't
of the
living with
time-
her mother. She was
Okay.
living with living
Ma'am,
at my home.
please let me finish my question before you answer.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Bottom line is she was in school in Florida until the end of school, which was when? The end of May?
Yes.
Okay. So when did Gabrielle come to stay with you after school ended, where she began to live with you most of the time?
That was, let me tell you the exact date. You said without coming back and forth on the weekends?
When did
So
she
like
begin?
when she constantly stayed
I'm sorry.
when she constantly stayed here in Henry County.
When did she begin to live with you full time?
Oh, after her 5th grade graduation.
Okay. And the mother did come up, Ms. Kimberly Pace did come up in August and requested the assistance of the Henry County Sheriff to get her daughter. Isn't that correct? And the Henry County Sheriff visited you at your home, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the mother did make an attempt to get her daughter back.
That was after I asked for the paper for her to sign after she agreed that she was going to give me temporary custody. She
Okay.
didn't want it to go to court.
Do you realize that this is not a custody case? This is a dependency case? And do you realize there's a difference?
Oh, yes.
You realize there's a difference between a custody case and a dependency case, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, isn't it true that you called DCF, Department of Children and Families in Florida, twice in December last year to investigate the mother, correct?
No, that's not true. I called once.
You called once, all right?
That was when my niece got touched.
Okay. And to your knowledge, they closed the case, correct?
I'm thinking. I'm not sure. I never got a call back.
Okay. All right. Now, you filed for temporary guardianship in probate court last month, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And the mother, Kimberly Pace, filed an objection to that guardianship. Are you aware of that? Did you receive that, a copy of that objection?
No.
Okay. Now, in your complaint, in this dependency case, you state that the reason that you filed this for this emergency hearing was that the mother tried to take the child from you without your knowledge and consent. You recall putting that in your complaint?
You said she tried to take a child from me without my. Yeah, she went to the school. She didn't tell me she was coming to take her child. Yes.
All right. And you realize you have no legal right to custody of this child right now. Do you understand that?
Now I do, yes. I thought when I went to file the petition and when they swore me in, I thought we was just going to go from there. So once I realized what it was, yes, now, as of today,
Okay.
I do.
So you filed a complaint with DCF 9 months ago in December. Nothing ever came of that. You filed a petition for temporary guardianship last month in probate court, and the mother objected.
I wasn't
Now-
aware.
I'm sorry?
I wasn't aware she objected it because
Okay.
she told me she was going to sign it, then she backed out.
So when
Okay.
she
Well,
backed out, you knew then she objected, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
she did. We do have a copy of the objection, Your Honor. And now you filed an emergency dependency hearing because you say the reason is that the mother is trying to take the child without your consent and knowledge, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But now you're saying you realize you have no legal right to the child.
Yes, after I spoke. Well, I didn't know. After I'm talking through court with you guys.
Okay.
Now you're saying it. Now I'm realizing.
Okay. Now your
Ms.
brother,
Miller, I was going to just, her pleadings, and I don't know whether it was in the complaint or the petition, also mentioned deplorable living conditions, and something else, I think.
Verbal abuse. I have
physical
videos
and
of her
verbal
verbal
abuse.
abusing her. Yes.
But she also alleged what you said about her coming and trying to take the kid. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
that's okay. That's all right. Now, your brother was the father of both Gabrielle and her brother Gabriel, correct?
Yes.
And he passed about a year ago in roughly June 2023. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And after that time, from June 2022 to the time you relocated to Georgia, you were seeing, or you and your mother, the grandmother, were having visitation with the kids in Florida every other weekend. Is that correct?
No,
No? How often were you seeing them in that year?
they lived in my home.
So
They
it's your
lived-
testimony that they lived in your home full time.
They lived in my home with me. Yes, ma'am. They lived in my home. I have proof that they lived in my home.
Did
They
they
have
go
their
to
own
school?
room. The only time that they ever was at their mom's house, like I told the judge, is when she gets in her moves that she wants to take them away from me.
Were they going to school in your school district?
Yes.
Do
Their
you
middle,
have,
I live down the street from their mother.
you-
I don't live too far.
do you have the school records?
Far as what you mean?
Do you have the school records showing those children were enrolled in school in your district for the whole school year last year?
The school is by my house, ma'am. Like down the
Do
street
you
from my
ha-
home.
Do you
That's
have
not the
the
question
school
she's asking you.
records?
No, I don't have the school records.
Okay. Would you be surprised to know that the mother has school records showing that Gabrielle has been enrolled in the school she had her in for the 2023-2024 season?
Well, her and my dad went to enroll them in school together. So my dad was there as well when they enrolled, but they wasn't living with the mom. They was living with me.
So, I'm sorry, say that again?
When they enrolled at Bear Middle, it was her and my dad went to the school. Kimberly and my dad.
I don't understand your question. The Gabrielle, would you be surprised to know that we have school records to show that Gabrielle was in the school in the mother's school district last school year?
I wouldn't be surprised because the mother enrolled them in the school. We had an open relationship. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, and they were attending that school, correct?
Yes, I was taking them to that school.
All right.
It's
Now-
both our district. It's not just her district. It's both our district.
Now, I'm sorry?
It's both of our district. It's not just her district. I lived in the same district as her. When she moved from Miami Gardens to Sunrise, Florida, I lived in Sunrise, Florida as well.
When did she move from Miami Gardens?
She moved from Miami Gardens during the summer. I know it was during the summer. I could tell you the exact date. Hold on. It was when,
She currently lives in Sunrise, is that correct?
yes. She
Okay.
been living there for the last 2 years. Since
Okay.
Gabby was in the 6th grade. She been living there.
All right. So it's your testimony that you lived in the same district and the child was living with you and going to school.
Correct.
Okay. So if all this has been happening over the last year and the conditions were so deplorable, why did you not file a custody case in Florida?
I had them in my, I had them kids in my care. She was openly giving them to me. So I didn't feel the need to have, I didn't think we'll have to ever come to court because she was giving them. Basically, I had custody because they always was with me. I was taking care of them.
And were they visiting the mother during this time?
Only when she'll call them to go to a birthday party or something in that nature, or she'll take them away when she's mad, or that just whenever she felt like it, she'll take them away from me.
Well, if the conditions were so deplorable, why did you not file anything when you're in Florida during the whole time that you say those kids were living there?
Well, I did report it to DCF about the deplorable condition. Yes, I did. So
you did.
Yes.
And they did not, they found they visited the home and found the investigation unfounded, didn't they?
I'm not sure, they never got back with me.
Okay. Now, you had both children, Gabriel and Gabrielle, for this. Well, you sent Gabriel back, correct?
Yes, he wanted to go back. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So he wanted to go back. So it's fine with you that Gabriel goes back to deplorable conditions with no.
Well, he was supposed to be going back to my mom. He went back to my mom's house. She came and got him from my mom's house. So when I sent him back to my mom because she said they can go to school from my mom and she'll provide.
And then the mother picked up Gabriel from your mom's house, correct?
Yes, I was aware maybe a couple of days.
Okay. All right. No further questions, Your Honor. Well, wait. So I want to clarify something for the timeline. You're claiming that the kids lived with you. You're claiming, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Let me ask you the question again. You said that you relocated to Georgia in April, correct?
Correct.
And the kids both finished out the school year in Florida.
Correct.
Okay. So Gabrielle had not been living full time with you until at least June when she got out of school, correct?
She was still living in my home that I had in Florida with my oldest brother, David Scott, who was taking her back and forth to school.
I understand that. That's in Florida. But she was not living with you full time in Georgia until just a couple of months ago in June.
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Ms. Scott, as I told you earlier, you have the burden. So if there's anything you want to respond to that you feel like you haven't responded to, I'm not suggesting that you have or you haven't, but I'll give you the last say.
Okay, Your Honor, this is all I wanted to say. I never was trying to battle him I'm not holding Gabriella here for my own benefit. Her, like I told you earlier, her and her mom has a relationship and it's not safe for her to be there. She has been suicidal since what she would do to herself if she had to go back and things in that nature. Like I said, the photos that I submitted in our email are recent photos that I have taken over the time when she do try to snatch them back from me. A recent photo of her having a gun in the pills the other day. Also, I mean, I just feel like when people know that they're going to court or anything in that nature, they will clean up their home as of now. And then they'll go back once everything is over because it has happened. So when she know DCF has been called and they give her a call, let her know they're coming, they have a thing that they go to the grocery store, fill up the refrigerator, have people in the house cleaning up real fast. So when they come, that the house can look okay. It has been plenty of times before I took Gabriella lived with me. I had to travel all the way to Miami when I was living in Sunrise, Florida, to provide toothpaste, uniforms. The school is aware of this. You know what I'm saying? It's not nothing I'm just coming forward saying. I have proof of it.
Has this child ever been admitted to a mental hospital for any treatment for suicidal threat?
No, I had she had to have counseling session for grieving counseling after my brother passed away. In that nature, when I took her to the doctor to take her shots in Miami at this clinic on 183rd, I mentioned it to the doctor. He had gave me a referral. They added me on the waiting list.
Okay.
So
did you seek any assistance here in Henry County for your concern about possible suicidal ideations?
I had spoke with I think her name is Ruth. I had spoke with her about that on one Friday. I can't remember the exact date.
Has she received any treatment for any of that from?
No, not as of yet. She has like counseling with one of a family members of mine that she speak with. She's worked for DeKalb. She has counseling with her.
But she's never been hospitalized for any mental health issue,
No, sir.
suicide or otherwise.
No, sir.
She's never been diagnosed bipolar, depressed, anything of a mental health nature.
No, sir.
As far as you know, she's never been on any medication for any mental health disorder.
As far as I know, no, sir.
Thank you. Where's Miss Fincher? Miss Fincher,
Yes, Your Honor.
can you shed any light on any of this stuff between Florida and Georgia? If Florida ever, if it has an open file or ever had an open file other than an initial investigation, that sounds
my
like it's probably closed, but
From my understanding, they did have an open investigation. I was provided some numbers and we made our own referral, but we haven't heard back from Florida at all. I just know that of the concerns that law enforcement gave us when they went out.
what was the concern from law enforcement?
Law enforcement said that mom apparently has an arrest charge for child abuse. It's not this particular charge. I mean, this particular child, but they couldn't give me any other specifics. They were concerned for mom's behaviors and possible any kind of drug use. And that also mom has, of her 15 children, there is one that I believe recently passed away for committing armed robbery. But I don't have anything other than what the officer told me.
Well, what has Florida told you? The child
They haven't
protection
responded.
agency?
They haven't responded to any phone calls.
How many phone calls have you made?
I've called two different case managers that Miss Case gave me numbers to.
Thank you. Anybody want to ask Miss Fincher any questions?
I do. Miss
Okay.
Fincher, did you indicate the mom has 15 children?
From my understanding, she has 15 children, but 2 are deceased, one possibly at birth and one for an armed robbery is what the officer has told me.
Was there any indication how many children were currently living in the house that the aunt is alleging that had deplorable conditions?
Mom would not tell us how many children she actually has physical custody of or that live in her home.
And do you know a time frame on when this arrest was for the child abuse?
No, he didn't give me a date. He just said that that was in the recent history, but he didn't give me any kind of date or specifics to the incident.
Is there any way that the DFACs in Henry County can send? I mean, I know there's an open case, but I mean, if you could communicate with them, or can you get somebody to go out and check out these concerns that the aunt has?
We can request. It just all depends on whether or not Florida chooses to accept our request.
Okay. I'm sorry, Judge. Did you have a question?
No, I did. It went in one ear and out the other. I don't remember.
Okay. So when did you get, did the assessment come from juvenile court for you to go out and check out Miss Scott's house?
No, so we were called on the 30th of August because there were concerns between this child saying that she wanted to herself if she was to go back home. We didn't actually have an active open case, just they were trying to get our standpoint of what they should do with the child. After speaking with mom and the aunt, all I knew that there was possibly something going on in probate court. And then I guess later on, I believe Ms. Robinson received a safety resource assessment thing.
And I don't know if the judge asked you this or not, but were you able to offer any services or any assessments to the child?
No, we can give like a list of resources if she needs it from what I got on call in the evening. But with Ms. Robinson's case, if it stays open, there's a possibility she can provide services.
I have nothing further, Judge.
Wait a minute. Who's Miss Robinson? Oh, I was looking at the parties trying to figure out who that was. Go ahead, Miss Miller.
Who made the initial phone call to you, Ms. Fincher? Was it Ms. Scott?
It's a reporting source. I cannot give out that information.
Okay. As far as the allegations of the child wanting to commit, where did that information come from?
The officer that I spoke to that was on the scene told me that.
Now, when you say the officer that you spoke to on the scene, what scene and what time frame are you talking about?
On August 30th, Henry County Police Department went out to Miss Scott's residence because apparently there was an issue with Miss Pace and Miss Scott. My understanding, Miss Pace never went to Miss Scott's residence, but they showed the officers where there was some kind of filing in probate courts. And so then they called us to ask us if we had any information or what we could do to provide assistance to law enforcement.
And so do you know where the officer got the information on this? I mean, this is basically double hearsay. Where did the officer get the information that the officer gave you?
Which information?
That the child was threatening to hurt herself.
From the child.
The child told you that directly.
No, you asked me where did the officer get the information?
Oh, so the child was repeating to you, or I'm sorry, the officer was repeating to you what the child told the officer
Yes,
when the child was at the aunt's house and didn't want to leave.
correct.
Okay. You have no way to judge the veracity of that statement and whether the child really did try and hurt herself or whether she was just saying that because she, quote, wanted to stay with her aunt.
Can you rephrase the question?
Yep. You have no way to know whether that was a statement that the child just made to the officer because she wanted to stay with her aunt, as opposed to it being actually true.
Any allegation of somebody saying they want to harm themselves should be taken into consideration.
And were you given any information that the child, like the judge said, was taken anywhere for any kind of counseling or for any emergency mental health treatment?
The officer felt it wasn't necessary for an emergency treatment, just that the child should be monitored.
Okay. All right. And so, to your knowledge, the information that you have is either information that was passed to you by the officer through the child or from Ms. Scott directly, correct?
And from the mother when she came to my office,
I'm sorry, the mother.
Miss
From-
Pate.
Okay. All right. What kind of conversation did you have with Ms. Pace? What did Ms. Pace tell you?
That she wanted to get her child back, that she was aware that there was something filed in probate court here in Henry County. That there's apparently a message that was sent to Miss Scott saying that the children needed to go with Miss Scott. But she said that she wasn't the one that sent it, somebody else was. She kept on asking why would Miss Scott be doing this. She did say that the child, and showed me a text where the child had basically cussed her out and said a lot of negative things to her. And she couldn't understand why the child was acting like that, but she did say she had a conversation with the child about the child wanting to remain with Miss Scott.
Okay. But obviously you have not had a chance to do an investigation into the veracity of any of these allegations.
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Anything else?
Well, in general, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was going to have my client testify, but that's up to the court.
Well, this is where I am with what I've heard so far, is the child's legal residence is in Florida, not in Georgia. She wasn't here 6 months. And I don't think UCCJEA lets me, even if I believe the allegations of abuse and neglect, that I think this case needs to be in the corresponding court in Florida, where all the information would be, the school records, any outcries about suicide, which it doesn't sound like there were any, except up here, and maybe something down there that was kind of vague. But, I haven't had to do this in several years, and I honestly am gonna have to go back and look to figure, I think I'm supposed to have a conference with whoever the judge is in whatever county this is. I don't even know if the county was identified in the paperwork.
Well, I guess what my perspective is, Your Honor, is there's a difference between a dependency case and a custody case. This is not a custody case. I mean, this is not, this case isn't about custody. If it was, then the court's correct. UCCJEA says Florida has jurisdiction, period. I think that's clear.
But I think, I've been led to believe that the UCCJEA can apply to a dependency case as well. And I've been on the receiving end of cases, and I've sent cases, to other courts based on that, based on this not being the venue. But,
That may be what we would ask, Your Honor. I mean, the child is what, 12? She's lived in Florida full time until the last couple of months. I'm not
the
sure that,
consensual thing, this is not something that was at least partially consensual for most of the time, which is why I don't think legal residence has changed. Ms. Miller, the guardian ad litem, has this child expressed any threats of harming herself if she has to go with her mother?
I didn't specifically ask her. I just asked her the reasons that she did not want to live with her mother, and she expressed the deplorable conditions, the amount of people living in her mother's house, the fact that she'd lived with her aunt, but I didn't specifically ask about suicidal threats because it was the first time I'd heard it on the hearing.
Did the Ms. Scott, since the child has been in school up here with you, does she receive special ed services at school for anything?
Her counselor, Ms. Green, has started something on Monday with her they have something in Henry County called the Suicidal 101 program.
I'm talking about educational assistance, that she has learning disabilities or has some problem with intellectual functioning that she needs.
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Does she draw a social security check for any kind of disability that may or may not impact her school performance?
Not in my knowledge, sir. I haven't drawn any social security.
Ms. Pace, is your daughter eligible to receive a check from Social Security or death benefits from the father?
Yes, she does. And also she had an IEP when she was going to Northern Elementary. She was in
Sorry, I can't tell who's talking. We asked you to turn your light on where we could see you. I don't know if.
Okay, sir. Let me turn the light on.
Well, why would you be sitting in the dark?
The TV on.
Well, why would the TV be on?
I had to get up to turn on the light.
Well, that's what we asked you to do that an hour ago. I thought you'd already done it until I looked up and you were pitch black. So is the child eligible for death benefits or disability benefits from any government or private source?
Yes. Like I was saying, she was attending Northern Elementary. She had did an IEP. She was doing a behavior specialist. And also she had therapists from Jerusalem Mental Health.
Well,
she does suffer from.
The question was, is she eligible for death benefit?
Oh, yes.
A check?
Yes.
Either for death of the father or for a disability of her own?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Have you already started receiving the checks?
Yes.
Okay. How much are the checks?
And now they went up to 3 something for the check.
I'm sorry?
I believe it's 3 something.
300 and something?
Yes.
For which benefit?
For the death benefit.
Okay. And the brother gets that too?
Yes.
How many kids did you have with Mr. Gabriel Scott?
Only 2.
Okay. So the kids get a little over $300 a piece, and you're already getting those checks.
Yes.
Is Gabrielle eligible or does she already receive anything from Social Security SSI disability benefits?
Yes.
How much does she receive from that?
She received like 4.
Who's been getting the checks? You or Ms. Scott?
Me.
Okay. Did you ever turn any of them over to Ms. Scott since the girl was living with her?
No, she said she don't want anything. She want me to just take care of what I have to take care of the house and take care of things. She said, I don't want anything from you.
Did you inherit the house from your husband?
No, I don't have no house in my own. I'm renting.
Oh, you're renting. Okay. And you were
Yes,
renting
I'm
it when Mr. Scott was still alive?
I was living in Miami Gardens when he was still
Whatever
alive.
house you're living in, were you living in it with your husband?
Oh, no, I'm not married.
So you weren't married to Mr. Scott?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Mr. Scott was not the legal father.
Okay. Well,
They never married and he never filed a legitimation action.
they don't have to do that in Florida.
They may
I
not.
have a question.
I'm sorry?
I have a question.
Well, wait just a second. We're
Okay.
Ms. Pace,
Yes,
where did you and Mr. Scott meet up and get pregnant and have these two kids? In Florida or Georgia?
in Florida.
Okay. If his name is on the birth certificate, my understanding is that legitimates a child in Florida. But I don't have the birth certificate, so I don't think it's dispositive of the case today anyway, but somebody had a question. I couldn't tell who was talking.
Me, Miss Scott.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to ask Miss Pace, how many kids does she have custody of?
I
in her-
can't, you asked her. I asked if you had anything else and you told me she wanted me to know.
Okay. How many kids does you have custody of in your care?
In my care, I have 5.
You have custody. You have legal custody of?
I have 13 children and minor children. I have 5 minor children in a household. Because Amira, she in college right now. I just took her to college in August.
How many kids does you have legal custody of in your care?
I have all my kids in my custody.
Which kids was taken out of your care? And what year was your children taken out of your care in Florida that you had to come to Georgia to have another baby?
Excuse me?
Which child you had in Georgia?
She wasn't ever taken out of my care.
That's not the question. How many children was taken out of your care from the Department of Children and what year? And you decided to come to Georgia to have a baby because you didn't want them to take your child away.
My child is 20 years old.
That's not the question.
Excuse me. I was visiting in Georgia and I was 8 months pregnant.
Well, the burden of proof, Ms. Scott, is for you to prove present dependency, not something that happened 20 years ago. So we don't need to talk about that anymore for today anyway.
No problem, Your Honor.
Assuming that even proves dependency, I don't know.
Okay, so we're proving dependency. What year did you get arrested for child abuse?
That was in 2020 or 21. With
Okay.
my teenager, I can explain what happened.
I just
My
wanted to
daughter-
know what year.
Okay, well, my daughter was being very disrespectful and defiant. I took her device away from her and she was struggling. She had hit me. And that's what happened. She was 15 years old at the time. And they throwed it out. They throwed the case out.
Okay.
Okay. And I had told you about that, what happened. Me and you was talking.
So would you say that's not physical abuse?
Now, we're not going to be arguing back and forth. That's enough.
Now she's 20 years
That's
old.
enough. That's enough.
Okay.
Stop, please. We've had enough.
Okay.
Ms. Miller, do you have a recommendation? That's Ms. Ann Miller, the guardian ad litem.
Well, Judge, I do have some concerns, but if the court's saying there's no jurisdiction in this, then I would just ask that if the judge, or if there's no venue or jurisdiction in this case, that if the child's sent back to Florida because this case gets dismissed, then I would ask that at least our DFACs make another referral down to Sunrise and at least have their, I guess they're calling it DCF, go out and check out the mother's house, because what I really prefer is for this mother and this aunt to work out this case. And if this child really wants to stay up here with this aunt, if this mother would allow her to, and give guardianship to this aunt. But if there's no venue and jurisdiction and this court's inclined to dismiss this, then I would ask that at least our DFACs do a referral down there so that DCF can check out this case down in Sunrise.
Well, I'm not going to dismiss it until I do the requisite conference with that court when I can figure out what court it is. And in the
Then
meantime,
I guess the question becomes, what happens in the meantime? I mean, this is an emergency hearing.
yeah, and I'm going to leave the child with who she's with right now until I can get that arranged. And she'll have interim emergency custody until I can get all that taken care of. The mother can have reasonable access to the child by phone or in person to visit. I'm not meaning she needs to drive back and forth. That's a long haul from Fort Lauderdale back to McDonough, wherever. I don't know exactly where y'all talking about, other than it's very South Florida. I just don't have the last time I had one was in Jacksonville, and it was a dependency case, and the mother was a resident of Florida, and I sent it back to them, and I have no idea what they did. But that involved an infant. It didn't involve a 12-year-old.
I guess my question would be, there's no pending case in Florida. So I don't know what.
I'm going to transfer this case to Florida, and then they can do with it what they want.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the court mentioned about conferring with another
Yeah,
court.
I'm going to confer with them and say, this is what I want to do. You got any problem with it? And
Oh,
if they
you mean-
don't, then I'm going to send it to Florida and let them schedule something in it to decide whether they want that emergency custody to continue or relieve it and let them duke it out. I agree with Ms. Miller. And in fact, I started to, while I'm trying to iron all this out, order the parties to mediation, but I don't know how quickly the mediation department can get something scheduled. Sounds like they were fairly close to working it out, or at least somewhat, and it's sort of a little disingenuous to start screaming about dependency and all that stuff when 2 breaths earlier you were agreeing to share time with a child. But that's for another day and hopefully another judge. But if I don't get this resolved, I'm retiring September 30th. So if you have to come back after that, you'll have to see another judge. And I thought we'd be able to resolve enough of it. That's why I didn't give it to the other judge. He'll still be here. A new judge is coming on board, but he may not be in a position to deal with it. But we'll keep you posted. But Ms. Miller, if you'd fix me a 1-page order that the child stays here and until I can resolve the jurisdictional issues and transfer the case to Florida. What's the name of the county, Mom, where you live?
Broward County.
Broward? Well, I've
Yes.
heard of Broward. Is that in Fort Lauderdale and Broward?
Yes, correct. Fort Lauderdale.
Do you know what the name of the what would be the corresponding juvenile court? I know they have completely different names and stuff, which isn't unusual. Just about every state has something different about their court system. But do you know what court handles dependency?
No, I don't. Not here, Howard.
Okay, well, that's fine. Ms. Miller, Attorney Miller, can you find out for us?
I can. I'm actually looking up right now.
I can't multitask like that, so I'm not.
That's okay.
Judge,
So-
in the meantime, while she's looking it up, can I be put in a breakout room with the child so I can just
Yes.
explain it to her real quick?
Sure. Can you do that, Robin?
So yes, Your Honor, there is a, hold on a second. I'm looking to see. I did a search for juvenile court. And
Well, I'm not gonna not look myself. I just thought if you knew something or knew where to look instantaneously, but
I do. I have it. I mean, I have an
Okay.
address. I have a phone number. There's a judicial complex in Fort Lauderdale for the juvenile court there.
uh-huh.
And it's got,
It's called the Juvenile Court of Broward County.
uh,
'Cause some of them are they're split into districts and they go by district numbers. Seems like that's what when I sent it to Jacksonville, there was a district number and then
right. All I see is an address for a central courthouse with a judicial complex and juvenile in parentheses
okay.
with
What's
an
the phone
address and a phone number.
What's the phone number?
The phone number that it shows is 954-831-6492. I've got an address if the court would like that as well. This is what comes up under juvenile court.
Let me read that, the number first, 954-831-6492.
Correct, 954-831-6492.
And in the meantime, as soon as you can get it done, Ms. Scott, you need to get this child seen and assessed about these suicidal ideations.
I will, Your Honor.
I cannot put the child in the breakout room. She's upstairs in her room and the aunt has the phone.
Okay. We're gonna have to recess so that Ms. Scott can give the phone to the child so the child can privately talk to Ms. Miller. So Ms. Miller, I don't know if she's already in it, she can't hear. Can you text her and tell her? I don't know. People have been texting away during the hearing and said, Judge, did you read my text? I said, I didn't see any of your texts. I didn't know you could text. So hint, hint, don't text the judge because he didn't.
She's back in her.
Ms. Miller, they're having to, we forgot that Ms. Scott and the child share the same phone and Ms. Scott has the phone. So she's going to go give it to the child and come back with us.
Do you want me to just give her phone number so she can call
Yeah,
her?
no, just,
Or
but,
you just want
yeah,
me to
you
do the
can,
same thing we just did?
I think just give me the phone number and I'll call you. What's your phone number?
Her phone number is 305.
Okay, I'll just call her after the hearing's done. And yes, Judge, to answer your question, I'll prepare the order.
Okay. And between now and when we reconvene or I get the case transferred to Florida, I expect you adults, Ms. Scott and Ms. Pace, to be civil to each other. I know there's some hard feelings and it's not often that there's not, unfortunately, in these kind of cases, but this child doesn't need any more trauma by listening to y'all badmouth each other. It doesn't do one bit of good. You keep it, if you don't have something nice to say about the other one, just keep it to yourself. And be civil to each other and to the child.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I'll be in touch with your, Ms. Scott, you don't have a lawyer, so I'll have somebody get in touch with you and with the lawyer for Ms. Pace and with the guardian ad litem and let you know what is going to happen as soon as I have the conference with the other court. I'm going to be out of the office Thursday and Friday, so I've got a lot to do tomorrow, and I'm not promising I can, because the last time I had one of these, it took me a couple of days to even hook up with the other judge when I found out who I needed to talk to. Judges are busy in court and they can't talk to people on the phone when they're in court.
So
I haven't figured out a way to do that.
So we're no longer going to mediation, Judge?
If y'all want to go to mediation, I'm fine with y'all going to mediation. I just don't know how quick Ms. Miller can get a mediator I'm fine if you go outside the ADR office and just find a mediator for them, Ms. Miller. I'm talking to Ms. Ann Miller. That's how we used to do them, is let the guardian arrange all that. We kind of took that off them and let the ADR office do it, but they can be kind of slow sometimes.
I could try, yeah. It's a little difficult to go through the ADR office. I've got to fill out all the paperwork, and then the ADR office gets with Ms. Pace and Ms. Scott. Then they have to pay the mediator in advance, and then we have to try to set it up with everybody's dates. But I can certainly try that tomorrow.
See, and we have the other issue with we're supposed to use mediators that are specially trained in juvenile matters, and we don't have, but I'm not sure we don't have but one. I'm not sure. We used to have two, and then one retired from practice. And if we get somebody out of Atlanta, they're going to get travel. Well, I guess y'all could do it virtually, so you wouldn't have to travel. Would you get in trouble, Ms. Miller, if you got somebody out of Atlanta? They'd probably charge more too.
Sure. No, I wouldn't get in trouble. I just couldn't do it through our ADR office. I would have to do a private mediation.
Yeah, I have no problem with doing that. And it sounds like they might be receptive to that. And
I think we can all talk about that offline if necessary.
Sure.
I just want to make sure that I understand, since Ms. Miller is going to be drafting the order, I want to make sure I understand.
she'll send it to you.
No. I understand. I know that, but my understanding is the court's finding probable cause in the emergency hearing that the
I
child.
think I have the authority, even if I ultimately don't find jurisdiction, I have emergency authority. And that's what I'm exercising to basically maintain the status quo and make further inquiry to transmit any information I discover about this, the suicidal issue.
But also in addition, I'm assuming that the proposed order is going to follow the court's ruling that the child's home state is Florida.
Yes.
That the court's going to confer to determine whether the case should be transferred to Florida as
Yeah.
well.
Yes, and if
Okay.
if you confer with the receiving court, the proposed receiving court, and
Okay.
I don't, if there's something that she leaves out, it would, I know her long enough to know she wouldn't do it on purpose.
I know, I'm sure.
The only caution that I have for you is, especially now that I'm leaving in less than 3 weeks, I won't have the authority to sign orders after September 30th. And, so my standard rule is when an order is submitted, I hold it 2 business days. And if nobody calls or writes me to object to the form, then I'm going to consider it okay with the parties. Unless I find a problem with it, then I will make some changes. But so if you get it and you say you're in the middle of a trial, let us know that, and I'll hold for you to let me
Okay.
know if you have any, if you hadn't had time to read it. Ms. Miller she's not wordy on her orders. She'll get to the point. It won't, better not be 10 pages long. And those are my orders.
And the court will have my entry of appearance and leave of absence,
Yeah.
should have it by Friday.
Okay, well,
I'll-
please
I'll-
don't spend that postage to do that.
I'll-
I'm
I'll-
fine. You're in the case. I know where to find you.
I understand, but I'd rather, like I said, with the way USPS is today, it's very inexpensive to send something locally USPS ground or UPS ground. So I'll do that.
Okay. You know, I had a case a couple of months ago, and I was here in Superior Court TPO hearings for about 1.5 years, and I had one of the Georgia Legal Services lawyers. Y'all have Atlanta Legal Aid and Cobb, but all the other counties around outside of DeKalb and Fulton, Cobb, and Gwinnett, I think, use Georgia Legal Services. And she volunteered to step up and help this pro se litigant who was getting trampled to death by defense counsel. And we tried the case, and I ruled, and there was a motion for reconsideration. And one of the objections was that I allowed that lawyer to prosecute for the plaintiff and represent her without her having filed a written entry of appearance. And I overruled that as a grounds to give her a new trial. But I'd never had anybody raise that before, because I've had people just give me their business card and I staple it to a piece of paper and put it in the file. That's not technically an entry of appearance under the rules, but that's close enough for me because I take into account that we under a lot of time constraints that other people don't have in terms of how quickly we need to hear stuff. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. Thank y'all for your time. I will be in touch. Everybody's at the address they've given us, I hope. Ms. Pace, you're still at Sunrise, Florida on Manor.
Yes.
And Ms. Scott, you're still on Grant Avenue here in town?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll be in touch. I'd like to tell you I'll be in touch tomorrow, but I don't know.
Okay.
Thank y'all, because I have court tomorrow too. Y'all take care.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Bye-bye.